Hello and welcome to the 7-Step Mindset Makeover, created and narrated by Dominique Bertolucci. That's me. A lot of people want to achieve their goals, create new habits, or make other positive changes in their life. But most people find it really hard to do. They either can't get started, or get started but can't stick to it, or end up in an endless cycle of making progress and then undermining or sabotaging the progress they have made. If this sounds like you, it's not because you're lazy, lack commitment, or whatever your preferred form of self-criticism is. It's because you've started your quest for change in the wrong place. You've been focusing on your actions. What you really need to do when you want to change or improve your life is to focus on your mindset, the set of thoughts you hold about something. When you get your mindset right, everything else falls into place. And in this podcast, I'm going to show you how to do just that. I've spent the last 25 years working with billion-dollar companies, dynamic small businesses, and everyday people. And over the years, I've become a widely recognised voice on happiness, what it is, how to get it, and most importantly, how to keep it. These days, I run a coaching and training company where I teach online courses, lead workshops, and speak at events all around the world. Although more recently, like everyone else, I find myself doing more of my work than ever over Zoom. I've written 8 books, including the international bestsellers The Happiness Code and The Kindness Pact, and I've sold more than 250,000 copies along the way. I'm also well known among my clients for solving problems and making complicated things appear simple. One of my long-term clients has gone as far as to make my name a verb. She talks about Dominiquing something whenever she needs to work through a problem logically or simplify something complex. Creating lasting change in your life isn't complicated, but it can sure feel that way when it's your life that's in the hot seat. This podcast is going to change that. Over the next few hours, I'll be sharing my best tips and favourite strategies for creating a mindset that makes living your best, most brilliant life something you can do with ease. Just to be clear, I didn't say easy. Creating these mindset shifts won't always be easy, but I promise it won't be complicated, and the outcomes will be so game-changing and life-liberating that any effort they do require will be an effort you're happy to make. We're going to be going on a journey together, and like any journey, there might be some bumps along the way. Sometimes the things you'll learn or the ideas I'll share might make you a little uncomfortable. They might stretch you in ways you're not used to, or encourage you to step outside of your comfort zone. When this happens, please don't tune out or press fast forward. Instead, sit with your feelings and see what you can learn from them. What insights or lessons do they hold? I'm always encouraging my clients to get comfortable with discomfort. It will always be easier to live an ordinary life. Most people are fine with fine and okay with their life being just okay. But if you want to live a happy and fulfilling life, it's important that you're not. But I don't think I need to remind you of that. I think the very fact that you've chosen to listen to this podcast tells me that living your best, most brilliant life is a commitment you've already made. Here are the 7 major mindset shifts you are going to discover over the next few hours. We'll start by detoxing your dreams so you can reclaim the energy you've been wasting beating yourself up about dreams you haven't achieved or the things you thought you would have done with your life by now but haven't. Then I'll show you how to discover your no and create a new mindset that supports your boundaries, helps you to say no when you need to, and eliminates the guilt and recriminations that so often go with using it. Next, I'm going to show you how to set yourself up to have a good day, every day, regardless of what is going on in your life, by mastering the mindset art of choosing your mood. After that, you'll learn how to ignore the voices of negativity in your life so that you can stop worrying about what everyone else thinks or says and shift your focus to making the most of it. You'll create an entirely new understanding about fear and the role it plays in your life, and know exactly how to confront the enemy when you meet it. Then, I'll show you how you can stop being the number one obstacle to your success and say goodbye to your but, leaving your excuses behind once and for all. Last up, we'll shift your focus to what you really want from life, and I'll show you how to see into the future by setting clear intentions for what you do and don't want in your life. Throughout this podcast, I'll be sharing a whole range of tips, strategies, and suggestions to help you shift your mindset. Each episode will end with a special coaching session where someone reflects on their personal experiences implementing these key lessons in their life. They'll share their insights on how the 7 steps have helped them make over their mindset. But don't worry, you don't need to listen with a notebook and pen in your hand to make sure you can do the same. I've created a workbook that contains the key lessons from each episode, plus some exercises and journal prompts to help you put each lesson into action. I've also included some extra insights and resources that I just couldn't fit into this podcast. The workbook is free, and you can download it as a PDF from mindsetmakeover.me. That's not .com, it's .me, mindsetmakeover.me. As you listen to each episode, I'd love to know what your biggest insights and your favourite mindset shifts have been. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook at Dominique Bertolucci. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. And while you're over on social media, why not share a pic of whatever it is you're doing while you're listening to this podcast? Tag me, tag Audible, and tag a friend who you think will enjoy it too. If you use the hashtag #MindsetMakeover, I'll be able to keep an eye out for you and be sure to cheer you along. Now, before we get started on the 7 steps, I want to expand on the principle I introduced right at the start. The idea that you need to prioritize creating the right mindset before you even think about taking action in your life. There's a very simple reason for this. It's your thoughts that inform your feelings, and it is your feelings that control your actions. I call this process the architecture of change, and it underpins everything I'm going to share with you throughout the 7-step mindset makeover. Although people most commonly begin any change by thinking about their actions, taking action is the last stage in a 3-part process to creating lasting and lifelong change in your life. Once you understand these 3 stages, making and maintaining change will become natural and easy for you. Just as an architect creates a 3D plan to understand how a finished project will look, you need to consider 3 separate aspects to get to your desired end result: your head space, your heart space, and your dynamic space. These 3 spaces of change need to be considered together and not separately if you want to achieve your goals, create new habits, and make lasting change something you can do with ease. If an architect were to design a roof without deciding on the walls that would support it, or the floor that would be the foundation below it, the roof would have no support, and of course it would fall down. The exact same thing happens when you create actions that don't have the proper support or foundation. Let's look at those 3 spaces in a little more detail. First up is your headspace. Change your thoughts. All change begins in the mind. When you master your headspace, you'll start to really think like a winner, and everything in life will become much, much easier for you. Your thoughts control your feelings, and mastering your headspace will mean you can identify and eliminate any limits, blocks, fears, or obstacles long before they have a chance to get in your way. By taking control of what you think about your goals, hopes, and dreams, you will exponentially increase your likelihood of making them come true. Next is your heart space. Change your feelings. Your feelings govern your actions. When you master your heart space, feeling inspired and being motivated will become your natural and most comfortable state. Your feelings are not good or bad. All that matters is the power that you give them. Instead of expecting every feeling you have to be happy and then berating yourself if they're not, you will be able to embrace all of your feelings without empowering them to run your life. You will also be able to create new feelings whenever you need their support. Lastly, there is your dynamic space. Change your actions. Without action, there can be no result. When you master your dynamic space, you will find it much easier to do the things you need to do to create the changes you want and get the results you desire. Not all of your actions will be things others can see. When you've mastered your dynamic space, not only will you take action with obvious, external results, you will also make different decisions and choices. It is these invisible actions that will make the visible ones even easier for you to achieve. This podcast is focused on the first part of the architecture of change, your headspace, which is also known as, you guessed it, your mindset. So now, let's get started on the first of those 7 steps. Step 1. Detox your dreams. One of the most common questions children are asked by the well-meaning older people in their lives is, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's a fun question, and the answers can range from the highly illuminating to the very amusing. The good news is that we don't expect children to have any realistic sense of what they might do and who they might become when they grow up. The not-so-great news is that teenagers and adults, both young and fully grown, often aren't any more realistic in their understanding or expectations of what they might do with their life. Personally, I bypassed nurse, teacher and astronaut and went straight to the top, telling anyone who would listen that when I grew up, I was going to be Wonder Woman. I spent hours thinking about this, practicing my moves with my bulletproof bracelets, made of tinfoil of course, and daydreaming about the baddies I would capture and bring to justice with the help of my lasso of truth, also made of tinfoil. I held on to this dream for longer than was quite possibly age appropriate, but even when I was old enough to realise that the Wonder Woman I knew and loved was played by an actress, the glorious Linda Carter, I still didn't really give up on the idea. I just shifted my focus from superhero to movie star, in the hope that one day I could fulfil my dream on the screen, if not in real life. Except, of course, that it wasn't a dream. Not really. It was a fantasy. The first thing you need to do to detox your dreams is separate your dreams from your fantasies. When I tell you I wanted to become Wonder Woman, and yet still haven't managed to achieve it, neither of us think anything of it. We can share a laugh and know with complete confidence that Dominique Bertolucci, born in Perth, Western Australia, was never going to become Diana, Princess of Themyscira. No amount of wishing, no amount of hoping, and no amount of dreaming was ever going to change that, because it was nothing but a fantasy. A child wanting to become a superhero is an obvious fantasy. But as adults, we need to let go of our fantasies too. Ideas about who we might be and what we might do that were never grounded in reality. Right about now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, Dominique, you're a life coach. Aren't you supposed to be telling me that I can be anything I want? That the world is my oyster? That I have unlimited potential? That if I believe it, I can achieve it? And it's true. I absolutely, most definitely do believe that. You can do, be, or have anything you really want in life. But you have to be willing to work for it. Sometimes that means working really hard, or making sacrifices, or going without something else you want, or rising to meet challenges that are beyond the odds. It might also mean getting really clear about the essence of what it is you really want, getting clear about whether you're pursuing a destination, or if the journey is just as important, whether what matters is winning the prize, or if being a serious contender is worthwhile enough. But when something is a fantasy, your ideas never really get out of the gate. They hang around as something you love thinking about, but lack the substance, detail, or commitment needed to actually do something about them. And I want you to know that's okay. It is 100% okay to have fantasies in your life, just as long as you don't treat them as something they're not. As long as you don't mistake your fantasies for dreams and then criticize yourself or beat yourself up for failing or falling short of achieving them. Fantasies are something you enjoy thinking about. Dreams are something you're actually willing to do something about. Think about all the things you've said you would do, be, or have in life, but that deep down you now realize you were never going to do anything about, or at least were never going to do what it was really going to take to make them a reality in your life. And then I want you to let them go. Now that you've let go of your fantasies, we can get to work on clearing out the dreams that were never yours in the first place. I call these your coulda, woulda, shoulda dreams. These are dreams and goals that you feel you are expected to achieve, but that won't necessarily lead to you living a happy and fulfilling life. Anytime you find yourself saying, I could do this, I should do that, or if only then I would do it, it's a clear sign that you're not talking about something you actually want to do. It really is time to stop pretending otherwise. The next thing I want you to do is release yourself from expectations, yours and everyone else's. Society, our community, our friends, and our family all have a big influence on our life. You might be conscious of some of these influences. For generations, your family might have gone to a certain school or lived in a certain part of town. You might come from a long line of lawyers, or perhaps it was made clear that you would be the first in your family to go to university. You may have had expectations placed on you because of your gender, by your family, or because they are the norm in your social circle. And we don't only source our expectations externally. You might also be consciously or unconsciously guilty of setting goals and pursuing dreams to impress other people, because you've convinced yourself it's what's expected of you, or because you think that you'll somehow be less than until you've achieved whatever it is you're saying you should be achieving. The third thing to do is to let go of any pressure you feel because you know you have potential. Just because you can do something doesn't mean that you have to. You might have the potential to be a concert pianist, the natural skill to be an elite athlete, or the curious mind required of a scientist. All of these things are doable with drive, commitment, and focus. I'm good at maths. I could have been an accountant. My dad wanted me to be a lawyer, and for years he said I should have pursued a career in law. But just because I could have, or other people thought I should have, doesn't mean that either of these paths would have been right for me. In fact, I know for certain they wouldn't have. Trying to achieve your coulda, woulda, shoulda dreams and goals often feels like pushing a boulder up a hill. You rarely make any progress, and when you do, you run the risk of it crushing you. Knowing that you're free to pursue whatever dreams you want, the next thing you need to do is to make sure the dreams you do pursue are aligned with your values. Your values are the things that matter most to you in life, the things that you value most. Everyone has their own unique set of values, and no one value is more valuable than another. Sometimes you might have a dream that you're working towards that doesn't feel like it's really for you, but instead is something you want to achieve for someone or something else, like your family, your partner, or your employer. If pursuing this is ultimately aligned with your values, then it really is still for you, even if you're not the immediate or ultimate beneficiary. Providing for your family, travelling to a loved one's wedding, or giving up your Sunday sleep in to watch your children play sport might not be what you want to do, but the doing of these things is how you honour your values. Sometimes you might have an idea of something you could do or achieve, but the reality is that pursuing this would be in conflict with your values. And I want to be clear here. I'm not talking about things that are against your values or feel wrong to you. I'm hoping you wouldn't even consider pursuing those. Instead, I'm talking about those things where moving forward with one thing might take you further from something else that's important to you. When this kind of conflict is at play, you find yourself taking one step forward and 2 steps back, or worse, self-sabotaging your progress. If you find that your dream is in conflict with your values, you need to examine what this dream really represents for you. Once you know the answer, you'll need to adjust your expectations or refine your values so they are more honestly represented. Just like the food that lurks at the back of your fridge, some of your dreams will have a use-by date. So the next thing I want you to do is throw out any of yours that have passed theirs. There are some things we want in life that we would happily pursue until our dying days if we thought that was what it would take to get there. But other desires are much more tightly contained within a time and place. And when that time passes, it's as if those dreams have passed their expiry or best before date in your life. As time moves on, life moves on. And it is important that you don't let your ideas from the past prevent you from focusing on the future. I began this episode by talking about what you wanted to be when you grew up. As you finished your teenage years and entered adulthood, you were no doubt filled with ideas about all the things you might do, be, or have in your life. And I really hope that at least a few of these have come to fruition for you. But just because you wanted something at 18 doesn't mean you still need to be chasing it at 25, 45, or 65, or beating yourself up because you never got there by 95. Growing up, we were taught never to give up. And that's true if you're trying to master a new skill as a child or to get the exam results you need to open a new door in your life. But there is a big difference between giving up on a dream and letting it go or setting yourself free. I speak to so many people who have so much of what they need to be happy in their life, but who feel like their life is inadequate in some way because they never did what they thought they would do or haven't got what they thought they would have. There is no age or stage in life that comes with its own crystal ball. When you were a child, your idea of what you might become and what your life might look like when you grew up was based on the information you had to hand, storybooks, children's TV, and the lives of the adults in your life. But as we get older, we're still basing our goals and dreams on the information we have. Some things turn out exactly as we expected, but other things might end up completely differently. Just because there is something you once wanted to do, be, or have, doesn't mean that you are now committed to chasing after it for life. Sometimes it's not that your dreams have expired, it's simply that they're no longer the right fit for your life. And when that happens, you need to be willing to let them go. Different things feel good at each age and stage of your life. And while sometimes your dreams expire, at other times it's you, your ideals, and your values that have moved on. Just because something would have been perfect for you at one point in life doesn't mean it would be the right thing for you right now. But if you don't pay attention to the subtle shifts in your life, you can easily put a lot of time and effort into pursuing something that ultimately won't make you happy. In fact, depending on what it is, you might even find that your achievement makes you unhappy, which would definitely be a wasted effort. Life changes, values change, and your dreams are allowed to change too. And when they do, there is no need to apologise. I often hear my clients say things like, "But I always said I would do that." And yet the only person they were making their promise to was themselves. Just because you wanted something once doesn't mean you need to want it forever. Your dreams are your own, and you can do anything you want with them. And that includes deciding to let them go. The last and most important thing I want you to do when it comes to detoxing your dreams is to shift your focus away from your goals and towards living a happy and fulfilling life. It's a complete fallacy to think that a good life is one where every goal has been achieved and every dream has been fulfilled. In fact, it's a fantasy to think that's even possible. At the end of your life, it won't matter if you've achieved all your goals or made all your dreams come true. All that will matter is if you've done enough of what's important to you to feel happy and fulfilled. If you're fundamentally happy, and yet there are things you said you would achieve and haven't, you don't have to continue to pursue them. You can if you want, but it's completely okay, and often quite sensible, to say, I used to want this. It didn't happen. And I'm okay with that. You don't have to be thrilled about it. You don't even have to like it. But you are allowed to accept it. Living a happy life is completely different from living a perfect life. A perfect life is an entirely unrealistic goal, but a happy life? Well, that's something that's within everybody's reach. For our first coaching session, I spoke with Kate, a working mum in her early 40s. I asked Kate to share her biggest takeaway from step 1, detox your dreams.
Growing up, I always thought I was going to have lots of degrees hanging on my walls. I felt pressured by my family that it was something that I should do because I could. It made me feel that, I wouldn't be accomplished without it, that I needed a piece of paper to prove my worth. I still always think about the fact I didn't finish my master's in business administration. So even though I've worked in a role for 10 years, I've had 3 children, changed roles twice, and now find myself in a dream job, the goal of finishing my MBA has still been hanging over my head, even though I no longer need it professionally. But because of Detox Your Dreams, I'm going to stop beating myself up about not completing my MBA. I've now realized it's time for me to let go of the fantasy that I'll go back and finish this training. I'm going to let go of making myself feel bad about the money that I spent on my master's when I didn't finish it. I'm at a different stage in my life and my goals have changed, so finishing my master's, it's an outdated goal. I have all the skills I need to be successful already. I'm exactly where I need to be at this exact time. Not all dreams are forever, and my dreams are allowed to change. And I have opportunities in my new role for training and education that will serve and support my growth and success. Letting go of this goal, this outdated dream, is a relief that has increased my confidence. Now I realize I'm okay with letting this dream go. I feel worthy, talented, and competent. I value myself more than a piece of paper.
Before we move on, let's recap the most important lessons from this episode. 1. Separate your dreams from your fantasies. A fantasy is something you enjoy thinking about. A dream is something you're willing to do something about. 2. Release yourself from expectations, yours and everyone else's. 3. Remember that just because you have potential, it doesn't mean you need to pursue it. 4. Take the time to align your dreams with your values so they take you closer to, not further from, the things that matter most in your life. 5. Throw out any dreams that have passed their use-by date. 6. Know that life changes, values change, and your dreams are allowed to change too. And lastly, and most importantly, 7. Remember that it doesn't matter whether you've achieved all your goals or not. What really matters is that your life feels happy and fulfilling to you. And don't forget the free workbook I've created to accompany this podcast. You can download it from mindsetmakeover.me. In the next episode, I'm going to show you how to discover your no. and create a new mindset that supports your boundaries, helps you to say no when you need to, and eliminates the guilt and recriminations that so often go with using it.